Man, oh man, oh man. Welcome back. It's your main man, the one and only Coach Tony. This is the Pull Up Podcast Show. And just like last week, we continue throughout the month of March celebrating women in sports. And last week, we had my guy on from Nashville, Tennessee, Coach Cal Upton, in the high school women's sector, and just showing the mentorship of what he's done with young women in high school and placing over 26 to 30 young girls at the next level. And today we take another step forward. And a dear friend of mine that I've been knowing for quite some time, and, with love, and maybe give a little hint away right there with the S on my chest, and it don't stand for Superman, even though I am Superman. So don't get it twisted. But, before we do that, let's clean up with some housekeeping notes. See, we got some people checking in today. I appreciate you. We Kevin Springer, Justin, all you guys. Make sure you drop some questions in the tagline so Val can send it out to our guests and ask those questions as we go throughout the show. But we want to make sure that you like us, subscribe to the show, send it to a group of friends, make sure they send it to other people, because we're one of the hottest sports podcasts around the country right now. But before we bring our guests out, Val, you know what to do. Drop it.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the voice and Coach Tony, it's the Pull Up Podcast. Show. I said bounce the voice and Coach Tony, it's the Pull Up Podcast. Show. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show. Can't believe that God has blessed me enough to move into my 5th season, episode 502. And this is a personal episode for me because I got a good friend of mine on the show today. I don't be around too many females I got to look up to. You know what I'm saying? I'm 6'3.5". I'm like, what? But today, my guest standing at 6'5", a little over, but I still will post her up. So I just want her, and if I can't post her up, I'm a guard. So I'm going to bring her out to the 3-point line, and she got to sit down and play some defense, Coach. That's how I coach the game. But standing at 6'5" from beloved university, Stanford University. I love Coach Tar Vanderbilt. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But she hailed from Minnesota, from the cold. She came all the way from, I don't blame her, because I went from Chicago down to Nashville. So I don't blame her leaving Minnesota and go to the West Coast. That would have been great. She was drafted into the WNBA, played Team USA, but I'm not going to spoil all that because I want her to talk about it. Let's bring to the stage my good friend, Carolyn Moos-Hardin. Welcome to the Pull Up Podcast Show.
It is great to be here. Thank you for the introduction. And my goal in being here really is to bring value, to bring some perspective, and to have fun as we talk about something we love, which is sports, culture, lifestyle, and just benefit everyone that's tuning in today.
Oh, yeah, man, I appreciate you. It's so great to just get you away from your busy things because I know you got the babies, and so to pull you away from the little ones is awesome. And, it's been so great to know you and see you along this long journey and just see the success continue to come. So we're going to spread a little bit of that to the audience here today. Let's go back to a young Carolyn, go back to Blake School in Minnesota. Let's put them on the map for a minute. Talk about when you started playing basketball. Was basketball your only sport you played, or was it the first one you fell in love with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I will preface that by saying I have one older brother and we played sports together growing up. So ironically, everything he did, I wanted to try or be better than him. I will admit I was born competitive. It's in my DNA. And if I play to win. There's no in between for me. So long story short is I actually started off with things like co-ed hockey, playing tag football in the backyard, a lot of, contact sports. And I was a wonderful, I call it a tom girl, not a tomboy, because I was very girly, but I was also very much into the sports that were pretty high contact. With that being said, I was introduced to basketball later in life. And this is a story I like to share with young children because I started later. And I always tell children it's never too late. I was introduced to basketball in 6th grade. So I played 7 or 8 different sports prior to 6th grade, none of which were basketball. So I came in very coordinated, very athletic, very much in condition, but I didn't have the skill sets. And so I took my entire 6th grade summer to prepare myself to get to that next level. And honestly, I still remember to this day vividly, I went to practice, I came home from basketball practice, and I said, Mom, Dad, there's no other sport I want to play the rest of my life. This is it. So I knew my passion for the game was instantaneous. I love the contact. I love running. I love the skills. It's complex. I loved everything about it. And who introduced me was a 6'5" female. Her boyfriend at the time was 6'8". They came into my life and mentored me. And I was 6 foot in 6th grade. And she said, come with me. Please come with me to the gym. And so I went with her and I never looked back. Like, I just had such a great time. And I always tell kids, it's not about your parents dictating what they want for you. It's how much you love what you are introduced to.
Exactly.
For me, it was instantaneous passion for the game. Yeah.
And what flipped that switch? Was it when you got out there, as you said? Because trust me, I know those Minnesota winners, they're similar to Chicago. And Chris Chelios and guys in the backyard, and they would take the bus backstop off they would literally go down the street, Carol, and take the backs off the bus stops and put them around the bottom of the gate and run water and create their own ice rink, in the backyard. People think I'm crazy, like, hey, man, welcome to Chicago. And obviously it's going to freeze overnight. So when you stop playing those other sports, because being competitive, I'm almost positive you were having success. But when you jumped into basketball, what was that switch that said, went, bam, you said, hey, this is where I want to be?
For me, it was the combination of taking little parts of every other sport I had tried, and now I collectively could experience it in one sport. Again, the running, the contact, the strategy, offense, defense. I love dancing and I love music. So I think basketball is very fluid and graceful. It's very expressive and creative. So it just fit my personality and what I had already gained as far as interest and put it all into one. And I just felt that it was an immediate fit. With that being said, I was not an excellent skill-oriented basketball player day one. No one's going to be.
Right.
Form, proper boxing out. Every technical skill I developed because of my hard work. And I had catch-up time. And I always share with kids, I was a gym rat. I finished my homework so I could go to the gym because my parents knew the moment I stepped in that gym, one of my nicknames was One More Shot. Because I was one more shot, and I wouldn't come home for 5 more hours.
I get one more shot.
Like, just leave me alone. I'm just going to continue.
My safe haven right now. It's crazy. And when you looked at that, and, as you mentioned, she became a quick mentor. And when you're looking up at this person, you're like, wow, what was some of the skill sets that she started to help you develop that you knew that once you got to high school, you're going to be able to use those skill sets, but more importantly, you knew that you wanted to take it to the next level?
Absolutely. So there are basketball skills, but I will also add on the fact that she was my science teacher. So she saw me during the academic day, and having attended Stanford, she really emphasized academics and athletics. So it wasn't a one-directional or one-dimension type of a mentorship. And in terms of hard skill sets, being 6 foot and being 6'5" by freshman year, she said, develop a three-point shot, play like a two guard, play like a point guard, and you're going to be irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So my answer is versatility. And the more you have versatility, the more you're indispensable. And you're going to be so valuable to everywhere you go because you can take advantage of your defender. No matter how someone played me, I could figure out a way to score on them.
Yep.
And additionally, defensively is how do you make stops, not just blocking shots in the paint, but lateral quickness, being able to guard a two guard, a three guard, point guard if you need to, all of that. So versatility is definitely my answer to that question.
Yeah, that is awesome. You hit the nail on the coffin when I tell these kids, I really hate, and Carol, I'm still in the gym. I'm literally, because I'm coaching high school ball now, but when I'm not coaching, I'm literally going to watch games still. And I get so upset because now, from the time that you and I played, when there were positions, now it's quote unquote quasi positionless basketball now because of what the Euros have done. But when I watch that, I don't get what you just said. I don't see the kids understanding that I'm a big, but I got to defend out here. But I'm a big, I can handle a basketball. If I get a steal, I hate to see kids play hard defense and get a steal and they can't dribble. Or the ball is inbound and they throw it to a person and they're looking around to get the ball to somebody. I'm like, put it on the floor and go somewhere,
Absolutely.
And I'm watching the tournament and one of Rick Pitino's big men, and they talking about he's now going to probably be a big draft pick because he's on the front of the press.
Yep.
He's got long wingspan. He's 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan, but he sits down and plays defense and all that. When you were now coming from grammar school, going into high school, started really learn, okay, I can really do this. As you said, 6 foot tall. Did they want to throw you in the post and make you the center?
What's ironic is I thankfully had progressive coaches. With that being said, is I influenced that also. For example, I really emphasized versatility when we won nationals for AU. I will take that as a first example. So I went from starting basketball in 6th grade to 2 years later, winning nationals, producing 6 WNBA players from that roster within 2 years. So that coach, to go back to the versatility question, definitely would allow us, especially based on mismatches, like a triangle offense. We had 6'5", 6'6", 6'4". So, I mean, that was tall for 8th grade team. I pretty much reached that height by the end of 8th grade. And when we were all in together, as you can imagine, we're going to play a triangle offense. We're not going to. So I could shoot threes. I could do 15-footers, and the other 2 players were a little bigger and less mobile. Mm-hmm. And I always pride myself on getting up and down the court. One of my nicknames was Gazelle because I can run. So they're like, let's put her at a 2-3 guard. She can do, look inside. You can float around the top of the key. So versatility came from the coaches, but it also came from the players that brought the skill sets that would justify implementing versatility. So it really is a two-way street. I think sometimes coaches wish for versatility, but then they don't have the right roster.
Correct.
So they're coerced into, okay, I've got a big man, a big woman who she's not mobile. She's not in great condition. Right. Let's just plop her on the block and she's sitting there, maybe 250 pounds and, can't nowhere.
Right. Get in foul trouble and then sit on the bench at halftime pissed.
Yeah. So, it goes both ways. And I think now, honestly, we look at the era we're in now, every coach wants versatility. I think they're well aware of it. It's not progressive and new to the extent that it makes them insecure to go for versatility. And I think historically in the past, it was more common for coaches to be concerned about, what am I doing having my, post player bring the ball to the court? It's like, well, if they execute, you can't argue that. Right. At the end of the day, if they do it well, then it's going to be implemented.
Correct. And I tell kids that all the time, Carol. That's funny that you say that. I get so many parents always talking about, it's the coach and the coach can't coach and this and that. I'm like, what is the kid doing? And if he takes a shot, the coach takes him out. And I said, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but there's 3 situations really that a coach can't coach you at. If you're sitting down playing strong defense, on-ball defense, and you get a steal, now that still becomes transition. And you are open court. So the coach can't teach that and say no, because if you can go one-on-one, go one-on-one. The second thing is, if you boxing out and off of a missed rebound, go back up. It's an offensive board, get a score. And then the last one would be, if the board comes off and you're coming out defense to offense, run in transition. If you're running in transition and you get the ball, score the ball. So I said, you sit here and you get these kids who always argue about, if I do this and I do that. You always talk about the mindset, the growth, and not being complacent for what you're doing. Coming out of that grammar school to high school, now you're on that top-ranked AAU team. How did you take being on that AAU team and then transition it to your high school team when you didn't have the same caliber players?
That is an excellent question, and one I'm actually faced with quite often from either parents or athletes that say, my summer team is so much better than my school team. Right. Now, I went to a school that was extremely academic oriented. With that being said, I took 3 AP classes, maintained an A average, extremely rigorous academically. Historically, my high school sent kids to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Stanford, Colgate, Amherst, like really, really intense academics. With that being said, that doesn't necessarily dictate we won't have great athletes, but historically that school did not have great athletes until my sophomore year. We changed that program around. We recruited 7 athletes that were frankly the starters and myself, and we ended up winning state. My school team ended up winning state, and we produced, I think, 4 or 5 D1 athletes within 2 to 3 years. But when I was in 6th grade, my high school program won 30% of their games. So here I am as a 6th grader thinking, okay, I want to stay on this academic track. This is an excellent school, but how are we going to rectify the need for athletic prowess and my exposure to great athletic prowess during the school year? Because you don't want to waste your time. You put all this hard work in the summer. Right. So to answer your question, a few things I did. One, I started practicing with the varsity boys basketball team. And I played pickup with them.
Yep.
And this is from the school where I attended. So every Friday, at least once or twice a week, I played pickup with all boys. There'd probably be 1 or 2 girls. It's just what I did.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to get that aggressiveness, the speed, and everything I needed during the school year. And then honestly, our team really did turn around. We were still fairly competitive. So how I handled it was, okay, this is a 3-year window. And what do I need to do to optimize my competition? And how can I do that year round most effectively? And I put the puzzle pieces together, and I was in the weight room, eating clean, playing with the pickup with the boys, doing all that stuff. And then I would run off in the summer with these amazing AU team that won nationals. And then honestly, we'll get into this, but 2 years later, I made USA basketball team. Yeah. And the rest is, traveling around the world. So it's a little bit of a whirlwind when I look back on it. If you look at 5th grade to 4 years later, representing the world, which is pretty.
That is absolutely great. We've got my guest in the studios with me today with Coach Tony on the Pull Up Podcast Show. We're going to end this first quarter because Val's got to pay some bills for me to stay on air. Val, let's pay some bills. We'll be back in the second quarter of the Pull Up Podcast Show. We'll be right back. Hey, it's your main man, right back at you. Coming live here from the Rise Studios. And it's your guy talking about what? Pull Up Podcast Show. What is the Pull Up Podcast Show? It's a brand new podcast hitting your airways nationwide, talking everything on sports, from baseball, basketball, hockey, and then I tell you, we're going to have a lot of fun. So make sure, if you want your questions answered, you want to have fun talking a lot of sports, make sure you pull up on me, because it's the Pull Up Podcast Show.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up.
Also, for those that want to learn a little bit more about this right here, oh yeah. That right there, that's the Rise, NIL, talking name, image, and likeness. Those are having opportunities to get paid. You want to tune in to it.
Sports show, let's go. It's the Pull Up Podcast show. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show with your boy, the one and only Coach Tony, with my special guest, Carolyn Moos-Hardin, sitting here. So now we get out of high school, and now you walk through those wonderful doors. I loved it. I had an opportunity. For those that don't know, Stanford's campus is ridiculous. I get there with Johnny Dawkins, and the day Johnny invited me down to get a chance to go to camp, I met him in AU down in Arkansas one year. And exchange, and I had a couple kids, and I get down there. And the day we go and do a walkthrough, Coach Tara is having practice with the girls. And I sit there, and I'm in amazement. And I got a chance to meet her. And then, of course, my niece, Alexis Jennings, was coming through Alabama at the time. I was trying to get her out to Tara. She knew who she was, but she ended up signing with Kentucky. And it was amazing. But the campus, when I came on the campus, they took me to the old pavilion where the old gym was at. And then I started learning the history that the founder knew Naismith. And when he got Stanford campus together, he always wanted to make sure that everyone was in physical fit shape. So each dorm has a volleyball and a basketball court. Was that crazy when you got there?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, campus-wide, everyone's really into being physically active. You'll see students riding around on skateboards. Obviously, the weather is pretty much conducive to being outdoors and active throughout the year. It gets a little, cold in the winter, but it is definitely the culture there to be involved, active, and, intramurals are huge there. They have ultimate Frisbee teams. They have every single sport is represented.
Yeah. And it's amazing because the good news I gave you earlier this year with my player, Didi Yamaguchi, who came out of my high school, played for me, and she's there now, and she's on the club team and competitive. And I'm thinking, Carolyn, it's like at normal schools, just club. She's like, no, Coach, we played San Jose the other day. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, we played San Jose. We got, San Bernardino in 2 weeks. They go around and they travel. They're like really playing ball. I'm like, that's crazy. Yeah. So it was nuts. So talk a little bit about that experience at Stanford, coming through that wow moment, because you walked through the door being victorious from day one. And what was it like with Coach Tara?
Absolutely. I will start with the fact that Stanford is going to be an experience unlike any other because of the combination of academics and athletics. For some people, that seems obvious, but until you're in the trenches and you're experiencing it and you're around the amazing student body, you don't realize the depth of every single human that walks on that campus. Yeah. You'll be having a conversation and realize somebody's passion has, resulted in them getting a Grammy a few years later, or, wow, they're the founders of Google, or just every time we go back for a reunion weekend, we have something called Classes Without Quizzes. And I will definitely emphasize the academic, the creative, the innovation side. Aside from athletics, is just so invigorating and so interesting, and just kind of ignites the passion in you to commit yourself to the academics. Now, on the athletic side, let's talk about the Sears Cup. Let's talk about the number of Olympians. One of my former roommates at Stanford was a gold medalist Olympian, and I roomed with her up until the minute she went off to win a gold medal. So I knew what the 3-a-day practices were, the 4 a.m. wake-up calls, and the 20-minute naps between these hardcore workouts. And, the dedication part of the Stanford student athlete is unmatched. It really is. And, I will share that I was so busy playing USA basketball, I did not take my full number of trips to colleges. I just didn't have the time. Mm-hmm. But I also knew that Stanford was my top choice. It was Stanford and Vanderbilt academically. And so when I went on campus,
Nashville with me, see, you'd have been in Nashville right with me, see?
Yes, yep. But similar to your experience, not only aesthetically is really a moot point. It's wonderful to have palm trees. It's wonderful to have the amazing buildings and all these amenities. But at the end of the day, it's the work ethic, again, the creativity, the caliber of the program. And now I want to take my energy and focus on the coaches, as you alluded to. They set such a high standard for everybody to reach their fullest potential. And what's interesting, when we talk about constructive criticism, coach always approaches practices. If I see you here and you're performing here, I'm going to ride you and stay on you until you reach your fullest potential. Yes. So please take every moment of my constructive criticism as a compliment. So when I work with kids, coaching and mentorship, the more a coach talks to you, you could call it yelling, you can call it, riding you and getting on you and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's because they believe in you and they see something greater than what you are today. And I always tell, great players, look for programs where coaches are going to make you and encourage you to reach your highest potential.
Exactly.
So for me, going into Stanford, when I was a freshman, there were 5 or 6 seniors that played my position. And I knew that, I knew going into it. But similar to what we talked about versatility, not many of them shot threes. Not many of them did pull-up jumper, 15-foot range, triangle type offense. So I said, I'm going to come a little different angle. I'm going to be in the best shape. I'm going to be able to run the court, shoot threes, play inside out. And at the end of the day, I can't imagine more suited, wonderful program for me and my style of play. And Tara will bring out the best in every single player she comes across, because she won't accept anything less. And so if you're complacent, or if you're trying to just get by, don't even consider going to that. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't understand people that don't want to go after reaching their best, or going after their full potential, because you have something in front of you. It's like a carrot, and every day you see something that you constantly recreate your goals. If you achieve one goal, okay, let's make it greater. Be realistic. At the end of the day, great coaches are also very realistic. They said, what, maybe you have tapped out. And there are coaches that will give you honest feedback and say, this is the role play that you have, and you are probably the 10th player on the bench. And if you're a walk-on at Stanford, you might have a particular role for a given duration of time, and it might morph and change because over time you have new skill sets. So I think a program like Stanford is going to be honest, intense, high expectations, and also innovative. I think that they've really allowed players, especially in the last, I would say 5, 10, 12 years, flourish into versatility.
Yes.
And before I got there, in general, basketball was not really welcoming, as we talked about, to versatility. So as a taller player, I won't say big, but a tall player with mobility and versatility, you want to go into a program that is progressive in nature. And that's something that I did experience. And it was somewhat new, I think, historically during that time. You look at 1999 to about, I would say 2010 even, and how basketball has changed. It's drastically different.
Yeah,
and a program like Stanford is definitely embracing that progression.
Yeah, then and you were there at the same time that Tiger was there, right?
He left the year I came in, but I did live in the same dorm, that he was in, and some of his friends still, were there and remained. Example of a very dedicated athlete to his sport. And I do play golf, not to deviate too much from basketball here, but I did not play golf growing up, although my grandmother was a great golfer and she wanted me to play golf. She was an excellent golfer. I will honestly admit, I did not have the patience to learn the game of golf as a 10-year-old.
I love it. I love it now. I wish I had patience back then. I would have done something even different. But, you sit there at Stanford, it's crazy because Palo Alto is not that far. And I saw where a lot of the kids can't graduate unless they do these internships and all that. But then you're an athlete. So what was the difference when now you're wearing a flag on your back with playing for Team USA? How was that feeling?
Absolutely. So USA basketball was before Stanford. And really when I went into my sophomore year and we're going into tryouts, they take X number of athletes. You are invited to come out to Colorado Springs. Yep. You're invited to, number one, be in high altitude, which I was well prepared for cardiovascularly. Oh, okay. Yeah. And during the tryouts, it is a weeding process of them, cutting down players each and every day. Very intense process, very direct. There's no sugarcoating in USA basketball. One thing I love about USA basketball is high character. You can have all the skill sets in the world from a basketball standpoint, but if you don't have great character, you're not a team-oriented individual. If you're not coachable, if you're not great at traveling, to go from Vienna, Frankfurt, Brazil, Slovakia, Chetumal, Mexico, to Brazil within a short amount of time, as a teenager, you have to be a certain type of person to do it well. We're in countries where no one speaks your language. Perhaps the food is different. Traveling, protocols. I think there was one time our luggage was delayed, and now, we're basically wearing our uniforms everywhere. Just little details you deal with. But USA Basketball does a really good job of weeding out character. With that being said, we are the best players in the world. To this day, I highly respect every single teammate I played USA Basketball with, and we keep in touch. Just to see them through their various journeys and different chapters that they've done means so much to me. And we keep in touch, through them having children or them going on to influence, other children and running camps and all these things. So for me to represent the world is something so much bigger than yourself. And one thing USA Basketball says, and they emphasize, look at the 3 letters on your chest. Right. It means so much more than the name on the back of your jersey.
Exactly right.
That is one thing that always stuck with me is we are walking around representing what people perceive about the United States of America. So when we play Africa, when we play Australia, when we play China, they see USA. And whatever we say, whatever we do, how we treat them, that's their perception of the United States. And not that anyone should narrow their perception based on
right. Those letters.
It's a responsibility to represent your country well and to do it in a way that, you're hardworking, you're considerate, you're consistent, and you lift people up. Even though it's highly competitive, at the end of the day, you show good moral character as an athlete and when you're away from the court as well. So it was incredibly powerful. We won a Junior Olympics gold medal in Brazil. The entire gym, 90% were Brazilian flags. Wow. And it was a 3-point game. So as you can imagine, it was unreal. The whole place was booming. They thought Brazil was going to win, but we shut them down. And we had our little section in the top upper corner. We're like using binoculars to see. They did that on purpose. We let Brazil do what they wanted to do with their, it was their home setup. So
exactly, that is incredible, man. That is, and I can imagine the feeling and the goosebumps just listening to that. I tell you what, we're getting in deeper conversation. We're going to get into the career when we come back. We're going to take a halftime break real quick. This is your one and only Coach Tony on the Pull Up Podcast Show with my buddy Carolyn Moos-Hardin, Stanford, WNBA, great. She's got fitness going on. We'll be right back. Val's pay some halftime bills. We'll be right back in one moment.
I've always thought about how my mom has supported me in any creative endeavor. How beautiful was it for your mom to be the superhero in your life and show up in your creative ventures with this book?
People ask her to sign the book more than they ask me to sign the book. Sometimes I step to the side, I take their picture. And, we have to celebrate our mothers. We got to celebrate our beginning. So she comes out with me. Every event, she is there. Even when I tell her she does not need to come, she will show up in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, okay, you coming? Okay. I'm like, all right.
And she got a bottle of wine in her hand.
What in the world? Why are you giving her alcohol?
No, I'm just saying. She showed up in the parking lot. She got a bottle of wine, nice wine. She's going to set it down. She ready for the show, Val. You know what I'm saying? Because the funny part about it is, CJ, I've actually talked to Val. I thought about, writing a book myself called My Man's in Them.
I love it.
And look at Val.
My man's in them.
My man's in them. But you got to read the book. You got to read the book. But it's a play. CJ, I apologize because Val should have dropped some old Dub C so you could have came out crip walking. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not flamed up right now. I got to hold on. Trying to get me shot.
Going back to school tomorrow, like, I saw you, Miss Charles. I saw you.
I mean, I can crip walk, so please, but I'm kind of, I'm authoring right now. You guys are funny.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show. We're having an in-depth conversation today with my girl, Carolyn Moos-Hardin, just talking about growing up in Minnesota, how basketball opened the door. If you guys are young in the game, not listening to her, and you're trying to be positioned and you're trying to do this and that, it's all about the mental mindset and where you want to go. Figure out the puzzle, put the pieces together, figure out where you got to start and where you want to end up at. And speaking of ending up at, talk a little bit about the baby. How the baby doing?
I appreciate that. It's funny, as I was alluding to USA basketball and following my teammates through various chapters in their life. Mm-hmm. And people say, what chapters are the most meaningful, and not to compartmentalize it. But my entire life, to be honest and transparent, I've always wanted to be a mother, and to look at my own extension of my own creation, if you will, and take all the wisdom that I've acquired and pour it back into this little human that is going to become the adult that they're going to flourish and become. So, it's, if I juxtapose winning a gold medal at Junior Olympics, playing for Stanford, this and that, I'll be honest and say nothing can compare to having your own child. And it's almost as if, they deserve to be in different compartments in your life, if you will. But there is so much more meaning in your purpose, in the delivery of wisdom and guidance, and knowing what you're pouring into will literally create the person that they become later in life, in every step of the way. I mean, people say, once you're a parent, and a mother, I'm a mother for life. And that means, when she's 25, when she's 30, she'll be calling me up asking for advice.
Correct.
I will be available all the time to give wisdom, to guide, to protect, all of the above. And I can't wait for that. And really just to let everything unfold organically for her. People say, do you think she'll love basketball? At the end of the day, I'm going to expose her to everything out there and see what she naturally, gravitates towards. Right. And if she loves basketball, great. If she chooses something else, wonderful. I'm going to allow her to be herself. Right. And to just pour all of her passion into whatever she does, because that creates work ethic. But this chapter and it's not describable. You can't really put it into words, but it's pretty, very fulfilling.
And you forgot one little piece. They're going to be like mine. So they're going to be still in your pocket. So like only one day, one thing, the next day it's something different. Like, wait a minute. But like you said, it's phenomenal because I got my daughter's 30, my son's 22, and to just, be in a position to just watch them, two different mindsets, do two different things, and then to watch them as brothers and sisters. Yeah. It's completely amazing. Got a question on the table for you. So Coach Justin asked, taking your entire career, looking at everything that you're doing, and he's in the financial space with Charles Schwab. And a lot of things recently he looks at is a lot of pro athletes, when they finish the game and whatnot, they are, they're done, they're broke, they don't have the money. Now, you were an early adopter with the WNBA right out of the chute when, like you mentioned a moment ago, the paychecks weren't big. What was the one thing that you realized, he says, that made you understand that you had to build a different business or build something totally different once you stepped away from the court?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of points you made, and I want to try to touch upon each one. Number one, the athlete's seen as the liability from a financial advisor. I don't know his exact role, but I have a lot of financial advisor friends, and they look at assets or liabilities as clients. As an athlete, I want to be an asset to a financial manager because they trust my capability to save, invest, and make wise decisions, and to have a lifestyle that's conducive to longevity and growing wealth. So that's one point I do want to make, because I'm very well aware of the NFL, the NBA, the WNBA, and what players have made historically in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so forth. Mm-hmm. I sit on the board for the National Basketball Retired Players Association, and our membership base is anywhere from a 30, 35-year-old up to 80-year-olds. Wow. And the financial income disparity, to allude to one of the points you made, is quite extreme. If you take the 70 and 80-year-olds, they didn't make nearly what the 30, 40, 50-year-olds are making these days.
Correct.
Now we're looking at, if you're bringing in 50 million or whatever it is, that's considered small these days sometimes. How much are you really spending, and what kind of lifestyle do you have? And are you going to create yourself as an asset to yourself first and foremost, but also to everyone around you, because you choose to live fairly simply? And to me, that's very important. I actually speak on panels for health and wealth. I call it projection, not reflection. So everything you do financially, where am I going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10, 15, 20 years from now, based on the choices I'm making? So going back to your other question, as a WNBA player going into a league where maybe starting salary could be $100,000 or whatever it is, versus now, as we're going to address,
I'm loving
to a $7 million.
I love it, girl. I love it. It's awesome. I'm so glad they held out. It's great.
Yeah. So now you have the WNBA operating. It's about $7 million for a cap, and you have Unrivaled, which we're, to dive into that, we have a financial advisor probably on this question. You look at private investors that believe in women's basketball and they believe in the business model. It is essentially about revenue share and about dispersing revenue share appropriately and fairly based on commitment to this brand. And the athletes are the brand. If you didn't have athletes, you do not have a business.
Correct.
So let's put the athletes first. Now, with that being said, they need to be coachable. They need to be great with community service. They need to be great with the fans. If we didn't have the fans, we also would not have a business.
There you go.
You have the athletes and you have the fans. Now we have advertising, media, branding, all these things. So as a player that, number one, I did not have NIL. It was illegal to accept sponsorship dollars. I would lose my scholarship. With that being said, is if we did have NIL back in the day when I played USA basketball, it would have been a huge opportunity globally.
Yes.
What I did learn is that there are ways to creatively market yourself. For me, it was in fitness, where the fans that already know who you are see value in what you have to offer.
Oh, that's nice.
And for me, I was always known as the most fit player, the most health conscious player. I do not drink alcohol. I don't party. I'm not going to be that player out at the club at 2 a.m., making bad decisions. So I knew that passion, my commitment to my wellness, was something I could then turn into a business, because I could help players live the same way and also help them from a skill set standpoint on the court. So I actually started coaching. I was in coaching for girls and boys basketball all the way up to boys varsity basketball. At one time, I was coaching 3 teams all at once. And I had private, basketball lessons and private yoga, private weight room sessions. I was super busy. And then in Los Angeles, I had a lot of private clients, even actors, actresses, type 2 diabetics, obese patients,
Oh, wow.
Pregnant mothers. So my demographic started to expand. Wow. But to this gentleman's question, it really started off at realizing, what is my value? The moment you can identify what can I give people that's going to make their life better, then you have a business. And that's not to be, it's funny because if you took the worst fast food companies, they might do well, but they're definitely not making people's lives better. They're probably giving cholesterol.
Especially with the new Arch burger, right?
But for me, from a philanthropic standpoint, the way I approach it is what positive value can I bring into someone's life and then turn it into a viable business where people want to invest in it, because the return on investment is very tangible. And it's something that not only serves them well as a student athlete, but for the rest of their lives. So when I worked with athletes in California, for example, some parents had a little bit of a misconception about where their child might end up. They'll say, oh, I think they can play basketball at UCLA or this or that. And I'm looking, and they might be a D3 player. And I said, but I can teach them how to eat clean, how to work out, and this will affect the adult that they become. And then they become an asset to themselves. Yes. When they're 80, 90 years old, living to hopefully 110 because they've chosen to live better. So this gentleman's question really was about, how did you discover your brand, your passion, and the value you brought to the world? And that's really, for me, was differentiation. Very few people live the way that I live, even to this day. So I said, let me take that and bring value into people's lives.
Right. That is all. And speaking of bringing it into the life, just talk a little bit about Fit for Living Life. How did you come up with that name? And I can see where the concept come in, because everything is clean, everything is good. How did you come up with that name and then kind of lay out hey, here's what I wanted to do with that?
Absolutely. So ironically, the first branding I came up with was Fit for Life. And then I switched it to Fit for Living Life, because some people live, but they don't truly live life fully because they have health issues. And especially when I was dealing with type 2 diabetics, I will start with there. It's an asymptomatic disease. Perhaps by age 45, 50, you might see ulcers or blood sugar shifting up and down. And not that it's not irreversible, but at the end of the day, when people start to develop ailments that they could have prevented when they were in their 20s, 30s, and so forth, it really, it concerned me, and it really hit my heart. So not only as an elite athlete, that's great. I can go out and run a 6-minute mile, which I did do. And, as a 6'5" player, and that's great that I can keep up with the Stanford football players in the weight room and all that stuff. But who else can I help in this journey of fitness, health, and wellness? So if we live our best life, it's because of the choices we make with nutrition, sleep, training, everything you do. Treat your body as a temple. Mm-hmm. You get one vessel for life, for this lifetime. Yes. And everything, why would you destroy it? That makes no sense to me, whether it's smoking, unfortunately, teenagers these days vaping. I will share with you, I speak on anti-alcohol and anti-drug initiatives for the Super Bowl. Lee Steinberg, the great NFL agent, is a friend of mine. He personally overcame alcoholism. We've had those conversations, and it's just to see people recover and then to go on to inspire others to live a clean lifestyle means the world to me. So Fit for Living Life means live your best life because of the choices you're making today. And every day it's a choice. What am I going to eat? How am I going to sleep? Am I going to stay up watching too much TV so I'm tired tomorrow? Am I going to drink alcohol or not? Is that teenager going to influence me to try to fit in with the crowd, or am I going to make my own choices? Right. And I always empower teenagers in particular. It starts early. If you learn to say no, that's not for me. Good luck with that. I have practice at 7 a.m. tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning.
And my son, I'm so glad. You would love to talk to him. I got to let him meet you one day. I mean, it's so funny. He came to me one night and he said that, Carolyn, he was out with his buddies. He said, Dad, that ain't for me. I was looking to see what my buddies do here and there, but the drinking and stuff like that, he said, that's not for me. And I'm like, man, dude, that's cool, because it's for everybody. And especially right now, you're just now getting into your young youth. You don't need to introduce that to yourself. So I'm glad he made that decision on that. So we are having some in-depth conversations with my girl, Carolyn Moos-Hardin, right here. And we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the business. We're going to take our last break of the day. Val, pay the last bill because I got to get my lights turned back on. I appreciate you. Hey, I'm Coach Tony, and this is the Pull Up Podcast Show. For every Monday, we break down the game quarter by quarter and give you information as well as break down the coach. Join us on the Pull Up Podcast Show.
Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the boys and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Show. I said bounce the boys and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show with your boy, one and only Coach Tony, and my girl, Carolyn Moos-Hardin. Carolyn, if you wanted to make sure that my audience get an opportunity to come out and come to the website, tell them where could they go to find out more information about what you do in terms of the fitness for them and the mental mindset and all that. Where can they go to take a look at it?
Absolutely. Visit fitforlivinglife.com. If you Google Carolyn Moos-Hardin, it will auto-generate at the top of Google my LinkedIn page and also my landing page, fitforlivinglife.com. And that's all spelled out, no numbers. You can email me.
Google her. Google. You know how you go to the movie and get into an office and say, Google me? That's what she just basically Google her.
And you can also email me at c.moose@stanfordalumni.org. That's c.moose@stanfordalumni.org. And one thing I do emphasize is that I love to work with people all around the world. And so a lot of what I do is virtual. So the nutrition, the yoga, even the mental mindset, the psychology of sports, those are phone calls, those are via Zoom, even WhatsApp. I've had overseas clients. So being able to be mobile and versatile and approachable and accessible is so important to me. And you'd be amazed that so many student athletes from anywhere have similar questions. And if we can touch, there are millions of athletes that need help. I just know that for a fact. They need help to live better, to make better choices, to reach their full potential. And perhaps they just didn't get the right advice, or they didn't get the right access, or they didn't get the right timing. You know, if you get a child when they're a sophomore versus a sixth grader, it's a very different story in their journey. But if we get them early enough so that we guide them the right direction, that's huge. So feel free to visit my website, fitforlivinglife.com, and you can reach out via email as well.
Man, that's great. And, you know, and it's so funny. You mentioned something I just grabbed a moment ago about high performance athletes versus some of the clients you work with, type 2 diabetes, to maybe a woman or a man who maybe just came off of a divorce or just came off of a death in the family and mentally crushed him and all that. How do you, as a high performing athlete, then they walk in, they see you, and then you got to come kind of off that pedestal, off that high mountain to get to their world, so that they don't feel so intimidated? How do you do that so that the client understands, you know, this is a real cool person. She gets me, or she understands me. Then they want to work for you, because if they feel, oh, she's just in it for the money because she's Carolyn Moos, blah, 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 I'm just going to knock this 30 minutes out and go. How do you balance that? That's a very insightful and very empathetic perception. And I really appreciate that. Meet people where they are is essentially what you're saying, but in a genuine way, not in a contrived way. I really try to listen to people's journey. Everyone has a story. Everyone's had adversity. You know, I've had adversity. I've had a ton of pivoting in my life too. And to be able to show resilience and perseverance, and honestly, for me, fitness, health, and wellness has allowed me to push through, has empowered me to push through challenging moments in life. So if I can give that same feeling and that same sentiment to allow them to become a stronger version of themselves because of what they are going through, and they take ownership of the choices they're about to make because I guide them in those choices, then I have true understanding for that very perseverance they're about to demonstrate. And I really love hearing people's story. And when I've worked all over, you know, LA, DC, Phoenix, Miami, France, Minnesota, as you alluded to, my roots. And I've seen so many different philosophies as far as how do I bounce back, or how do I reach my full potential, or I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z. Well, tell me, great, let's talk about it. Let's talk about your struggles and figure out what worked for you and what didn't work for you, because nothing is truly cookie cutter. Now, the
program that creates results is very standardized and very scientific in nature, especially with physiology. But how someone's psychologically motivated is going to be very different. So when you meet someone where they are, you have to understand where are they mentally before anything else. Nothing's going to happen logistically or physically before you connect with someone on that mental level to figure out what challenges do you have? What roadblocks have you had? How can we overcome that? So now we're going to see success together, and I'm going to help you through that journey. So I really appreciate what you alluded to, because it's a very important nuance of the industry that I'm in. And then some people miss the boat on that.
Oh man, and again, get out to her website, take a look at that, reach out to her, even if it's for some advice. Trust me, I wore her out years ago about my high school players. Carolyn, I need to do this and that. Don't worry, just get them on and get them to talk to me. So it's good.
Absolutely.
Spend on a dime that you mentioned something earlier, and I want to bring that back. We talk about the revenue from when you were there. Now the revenue that the girls a few years ago was making. Now the new revenue. NIL, do you think or do you feel, because I got my own opinion and I talk about this on the podcast all the time, what is the NIL doing to the game? Is it helping us or is it hurting us? And I'll tell you from my perspective, as I mentioned, I played right before you. So our NIL was under the table. I can tell you that. I know a lot of guys that was under the table and we didn't talk about it. You had a good game. Maybe you went to a Boots' house and hung out, whatever the situation was. Well, then we know it was on the edge. And like you said, then all of a sudden the money started to get better. And when things happen, they started to make it, where kids can make a good living. Now I look at the NIL in two different ways. One way is saving basketball, because my personal opinion, kids are now staying in school where before they were leaving. Yep. And now they have no reason to jump to the NBA so early. They can sit there and many can become a good millionaire in 4 years, or they can make enough money to change their life. So even if they don't go to the league, they got 10, 12, $15 million, even $400,000-$500,000 to get their life started, which we didn't do that when we came out. Yep. So what do you feel about that, the NIL landscape? And do you think it will continue to get better, or do you think it'll continue to hurt the game? Because right now the Europeans are coming here quickly and they're gobbling up a lot of scholarships.
Yeah, it's all great angles to your questions and points. I'm going to start with, first and foremost, how we react to systems we operate in dictates how we're going to do within the system. The system doesn't affect the outcome. It's the players within the system.
There you go.
So, for example, if you have a parent that is a former elite athlete and they actually mentor you to manage your money well, and they kind of give you a preface on what to expect as a professional athlete and traveling and all that, you're going to be so well prepared to operate within that system that you're going to shine and flourish. I think a few dangers with NIL. Number one is possible complacency. If you sign a 5 or 10-year contract, the goal is, again, to never be complacent. You can always improve your skill sets. You can always become a better person, do more community service, fine tune your speaking skills, all of those things. So my hope is that as an NIL deal comes in, it inspires athletes to do more, not do less. That's one point I want to make. The second is, you said, maintaining athletes longer at the collegiate level. I do appreciate roster consistency for coaches. I will say right now, the trading, I know you didn't ask about the trading portal and all those, flying around.
It's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, it's crazy.
Or transfer portal. I think that consistency of roster allows coaches to flourish even more. With that being said, your job as a coach is to deal with changes.
Right.
But historically, if you look at a collegiate level, you pretty much know, as long as you have the right recruits that you get in, okay, for the next 4 years, this is the roster and the talent I'm going to be dealing with. But with the transit nature of players going off to play, especially on the NBA side, the NFL is a different discussion, because now we're talking about physical readiness.
Right.
Boys do not reach their full physical prowess until about junior, senior in college.
Correct.
Their muscle mass, their sheer weight, their ability to withstand hard hits, that's a whole nother conversation. So I do like the benefit it's going to give coaches a more consistent roster. From a player standpoint, if it's a monetary incentive, do I stay or do I go? That's not the right approach. I think some players are going to decide, is this an academic institution where I do want my degree, so I can take that degree and apply it after the fact. Like after I play professionally, I want to take it and actually do X, Y, and Z. And I think that that's a more mature approach. Now, nothing wrong with, you see a window, okay, I have 5 years to make X amount of money and I'm going to go after it hard and I'm going to get it done, put that aside, invest it, and then go on to my second career. I think that's smart, you know? So it's a balance between why am I doing this? What's most important to me and what's going to set me up for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, big picture. And I think the mistake people might make is running after the short-term result versus the big picture. So we do want everyone to win. I know that's idealistic, but we want coaches to have great players. We want programs to have consistency. We don't want rosters flying around all over the place, you know, not having consistency. And I think long-term, there's going to be a lot more cracking down of regulations. You know, I think as far as exclusive agreements, obviously some universities already have exclusive. You're wearing a wonderful Stanford shirt today with a Nike swoosh on it. We've been with Nike, been with Nike forever, right?
Right.
Now, does that mean that every athlete has to get a, you know, Nike tattooed on their shoulder for 4 years? You know, it's not a permanent, you know, brand alignment, but exclusives are real. And I do foresee some regulations being put into place to control a little bit what athletes have access to. With that being said, do I wish I had NIL when I played? Absolutely. I think I would.
God. I got mad. I told my mother the other day, Carolyn, I said, I wish my son was me and I was him, because they have the work ethic that I had back in the day and playing with the money now. It'd be incredible.
Yeah. And I think it's because, you know, you would manage it well and you would not get complacent. You would continue to work hard, as you alluded to, and it wouldn't change your approach to the dedication to the game from a passion standpoint. You don't play for the dollars. You play because you love the game. Right. You know, and that will show. And you know, some people say, I love watching college basketball because it's so passionate. You know, they play so hard and they're very strategic, and it's not as much showboating. You know, you watch the All-Star game, and they're there not to hurt each other, which is fine. Not favoring much defense, and you know, score buckets, and that's all good. But no, I think NIL as a whole, is it a positive integration? And was I extremely excited when it was passed? Absolutely, because, you know, as you mentioned, I am a mother now too. And I think about, especially for women and girls, you know, how many more doors are going to open. Yes. And this is just one more avenue that, you know, females are very marketable. Men are too. But there's something unique about being a woman and different brands you can align with that is really exciting. And if done correctly, I think it can actually bring new fans to the sport. You know, if you're looking at hair product lines or, you know, feminine, you know, other things, it's like it brings a whole new avenue to what it means to be a family going to support a WNBA game, for example. Yeah, you have these new brands, you have these new perspectives. And so I think all in all, it's positive. And then people just need to be grounded in how they actually approach working within a system that's been now available to them. It's not the issue of the system that's been exposed. It's who's operating within it and how are they handling it.
Exactly. And before we get out of here, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You know, I'm gonna make you love, because it's the old Pac-12, but they're now with the Big Ten. They with the big guys. You know, we walk with the big dogs in the Midwest. And UCLA, I love Coach Ariamo. I know you had your battles with him back in the day. And I love what AZ Fudd is doing right now. I think she's on a tear, maybe probably the #1 draft pick coming out. And whoever they said this year is sitting on a $500,000 to $750,000 contract with the women, which is incredible, plus some more incentives. But Lauren Betts and Kiki Rice at UCLA, I love them to death. She's 6'8.5", and Kiki's a beast. And they got, Juan's a little sister there who's shooting off the side. And I just love it. I think that the matchup that I got, and it was perfect because both of them went #1 and #2. And obviously UConn's in the East and UCLA is in the West. So I got them to meet in a national championship game, 1 versus 1. And I think that UCLA gets the national championship cut down on the women's side of the house this year, is my opinion.
You've definitely been watching and tuned in very, very detailed. I appreciate that. And I know we kind of alluded to this the other day. I've been so wonderfully busy as a mother. And I, as a Stanford grad, will tell you honestly, if I haven't done all of my homework to accurately give you an answer that reflects my analytical capabilities to the deepest level. So if you gave me 3 straight days and you gave me the scouting reports and film, and I'll share with you quickly. So at Stanford, every Friday or Thursday before our game, we would have an exam on number 1, the roster, number 2, the skill set of every player, number 3, who we thought would take advantage of us and how would we stop them. So we had preparation. So when somebody asked me who's going to win the Final Four, this or that, I'll be very honest with them and say, have I done my homework? Like, have I really done all the research I need to do to clearly dictate who's going to win this tournament? So I'm going to give you a kind of generic answer, but it's still very relevant, is that the team that plays together and executes per the coach's, prescription. And of course, you adapt and pivot a little bit along the way, but that's the cohesiveness part of that, especially going into the finals, is so important. And just having the support of every single player on that bench. If you see that they're tightly knit and they are a chain working together, that to me is success. The other piece is health. You hate to see this, but if any player goes down, that's where backup players have to step up. We had 1 year, I've actually never been injured. I missed 1 practice in 4 years for a common cold. Wow. Never been injured. But my freshman year, we did have 4 ACLs, and they were all our starters within a short amount of time. So long story short is our backup players were well prepared. They stepped up and we went on to have a good season. But as we head into the finals, that's what I wish for these teams that are in the playoffs, is every player stay ready. You've heard that, every coach wants that, but you need a deep bench and you need a bench that's like, put me in, coach, I'm ready. So
I say it all the time. And I'm glad, and you just gave me something as we close up here. You just gave me something. I'm so glad. My girls thought I was insane. I kept telling them, I do practice this year, Carolyn. I said, hey, you're going to have an exam, and I'm going to be giving you notes. When I said I learned, I was in Bobby Knight's camp years ago. He'd give you a booklet, and at the end of the camp, Bobby expecting all these notes in the book. I'm like, it's a camp, dude. But hey, those kids that get it understand that. So I want to thank you so much for taking time tonight and jumping on the Pull Up Podcast show. My doors are always open, and the next time I get you on here, we're gonna bring you on here so you can break down the body types of you people you're working with, so we can get that going too as well. So I want to thank you very much for your time today.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to throw in quickly is the Betts family reached out to me when she was 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she said, you know what, my daughter, you're tall, you're athletic, you played at Stanford, all of that. And she said, will you talk to her? She's number one, she's tall, she stands out, she's unique, and she's becoming her own person. To see a child from age 11 to 18, and everything they're doing now at the collegiate level is so special. And now that I have my own child, I'm going to ask her to call these older players.
Yes.
When my daughter's 11, I'm going to actually have her call her and say, do you remember when you spoke to me when I was 12?
Oh,
and it's funny because that age gap is roughly about the same too. So, the more we can give back to these players and see them flourish and to see what new opportunities they're creating for themselves and their teammates around them is so special. And I love the Betts family. I followed her throughout her career, and it's special.
Man, I can't wait to see your baby grow up. I'm looking forward to seeing her grow. And you call me and say, Tony, she's on tonight. And I'll be like, good, don't worry about it, because I'm signing her to my NIL sports marketing company. So speaking of that, as we wrap up the show today and whatnot, speaking of that, on my side of the house, Carolyn, I've got an opportunity to jump in on the NIL side early on in the launch a few years ago, my own NIL sports marketing company in the Rise. And what we do is we kind of work with the Lauren Betts and the other small athletes. And I'm getting some good athletes right now. I got a tennis young lady. Later on, I'm going to talk to you about her and some other athletes. But we work with a lot of the brands, and we match the brands where the brands are looking for something specific, and then the athletes are looking for something specific. And we make sure that both of them to come together and help the athlete unleash the potential and help the brands maximize earning for them. So it's been great. If you want to know some more additional information, go out to www.RizeNIL.com where you can see that. And then my co-host normally, who's sitting in the sidekick with me, Val the Voice Johnson, she on Tuesday nights, and myself, we jump out of the sports side and we jump into music and entertainment. And Val's always got great guests coming on the Interludes talk on Tuesday. 8 p.m. Central. So for those that want to kind of switch gears and get out of the sports with Coach Tony and go listen to some funny topics that she talks about, please tune in every Tuesday night to Interludes Talk on Tuesday. And then as we're wrapping up the Women in Sports Month for March, stay tuned. I got another special guest coming out. You know, one of my girls, Special Jennings, Jay, just got beat by LSU last night. And I'm going to try to get her on before the end of the month. So I've got another big-time female player who's a coach, can talk a little bit more about what Carolyn was speaking to you guys about today. But other than that, Carolyn, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you so much. Love you much. Kiss the baby for me. But right now, everybody, put the peace signs up. We got to get out of here. Thank you. We out.
Keep inspiring. Thank you.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know, it's the Pull Up Podcast. So, I said bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know, it's the Pull Up Podcast. So, it's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. So, it's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. So, Kev is the engineer. Val is the one you hear. Hey, Coach Tony got the sports show. Let's go. It's the Pull Up Podcast. So I said Kev is the engineer. Val is the one you hear. Hey, Coach Tony got the sports show. Let's go. It's the Pull Up Podcast. So it's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up. Let's go. Hey. Let's go. Hey. Let's go. Hey. Let's go. Let's go. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up.